Welcome to the Latte Lounge podcast. Join me, your host, Katie Taylor, as we talk balancing hormones, busting myths, breaking taboos, boosting libidos, and bolstering confidence. This series is brought to you in partnership with the Latte Lounge Plus, the new online menopause clinic where you can get online appointments with an experienced menopause doctor, a personalised treatment plan to manage symptoms and prescriptions, if right for you, delivered to your door, all for just £45 a month, and that includes prescriptions too. So check out the show notes for more details on how to get your appointment booked in. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to yoga instructor, author and founder of Menopause Yoga, Petra Coveney, about how yoga can help with the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. Yoga is now recommended by the NHS as there is evidence that it can help us manage mood swings, low mood and anxiety during menopause. So I wanted to speak to Petra to find out more about these amazing benefits and just why yoga is such a special practice. If you've never tried yoga before, or if you're a regular, I encourage you to listen to this fascinating conversation as Petra takes us through how we can incorporate yoga into our regular activity and the sorts of yoga poses that are going to be most beneficial for our symptoms. Petra is the author of Menopause Yoga, a holistic guide to supporting women on their menopause journey, and a member of the British Menopause Society. She created Menopause Yoga and Wellbeing back in 2011, following her own difficult experiences of the perimenopause, and based on years of research into yoga, nutrition, HRT, herbal remedies, acupuncture, and much more to help her to alleviate painful and disruptive symptoms. So welcome, Petra. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Katie.
Now, I must confess that the only time I've ever tried yoga was actually when I was about 6-7 months pregnant with my first child. And I was so exhausted. I actually fell asleep in the class. And I was really mortified that I sort of never went back. And I've always wanted to. So I'm really glad you're here to chat today to obviously reassure me.
Well, First of all, Katie, just to reassure you, that happens all the time. And yoga teachers get very used to hearing people starting to snore in their yoga classes. And it then comes down to a very gentle tap on the shoulder just to bring the person back into the room. But it is a sign of just how extraordinary yoga can be, that we can be in a room completely full of strangers and somehow go to sleep, whereas we might struggle to go to sleep in our own bed at night. I should also say that we get lots of much more embarrassing things than that. I think if we just mention the word wind, that might resonate with few of the women in the room today.
Okay, I feel much better. I'll have to go back then, because yes, if women are getting that relaxed, then that's far more embarrassing. Look, I mean, I think the thing with yoga, and I'm sure a lot of women will relate to what I'm saying, or maybe not, but for me, growing up in the 80s, it was all about sort of Jane Fonda and workouts and sort of, burning calories and sort of high impact stuff. And for me, when I looked at my friends that did yoga in those days, there were very few, and they were already kind of slim and fit and toned, and they were kind of just doing it to possibly improve their posture and strength and that kind of thing. And I know things have changed dramatically since the 80s. So I just thought what would be really helpful is maybe you could just start by telling everyone, me included, what the benefits of yoga are for everyone, be they, a complete beginner like myself or an expert like you.
So the benefits of yoga are that it is a complete holistic practice. So when we say holistic, we're not talking woo-woo incense, although maybe you like that, and maybe there are some teachers out there who'll offer that. What we're talking about in terms of holistic is it's your whole being. So that's mind, body, and your emotions. And this is really where in menopause, we benefit from a specialized yoga practice. Because if you think about the hormones that are changing in the menopause, it doesn't just affect your hair or your bones or your stomach or your ovaries. We know that it affects every single part of a woman's body, including her brain, and that the brain's thoughts can be felt in the body as emotions. And in addition to that, we as women may feel certain emotions as we are entering into perimenopause or passing into our postmenopause, which could be a mixture of resistance, fear, reluctance. There's lots of different emotions that get wound up at that very tumultuous time of life. So when we say we need a practice like yoga, which is mind, body, and emotions, you can see that yoga is the only practice which supports everything holistically in a woman, which is also changing holistically through the menopause.
And is there a difference between, say, normal yoga and menopause yoga? Maybe you would like to just give a little bit of background into why you sort of, you set it up as a menopause yoga practice.
I'll do my best. I wrote a whole book about menopause yoga, and in actual fact, there was so much that I wrote. They had to put the extra 50,000 words in a second online book. So I'll really try to hone it down. But in a nutshell, in menopause yoga, it is specialized practice specifically designed to support women going through the different stages of the menopause, whether that's perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and carrying you into your second spring. So there are different practices for different stages of what women need, but also there are different therapeutic practices for different symptoms. So that might be a hot flush practice to cool the hot flushes in the body, but also calm your nervous system, because we know that stress can aggravate, make your hot flushes worse. There is a class and practices for menopause rage and irritability, which is designed to cool, soothe, and calm. So those are all about the kind of the hot bodies and hot emotions. And then we have different classes which are for anxiety, overwhelm, brain fog, helping to calm the nervous system and using very grounding breathing, movement, and meditation techniques. And we have specific practices for helping you to improve your sleep, preparing your body for sleep so that you can get a nourishing rest at night. But it's more than that, because we also know that we have bone and muscle joint pain. So we've got practices for that, practices for headaches and migraines and digestive issues. And then when you get in towards your postmenopause, we really start focusing on building your bone density, your muscle strength, your cardiovascular health, and boosting the energy to your brain to help lift a low mood and feel more energized. And that's really to help women to step into their second spring. So you can see that there are different practices for different symptoms and stages of the menopause, Katie. And in addition to that, the whole menopause yoga is wrapped in a very compassionate wrapping of kindness and self-compassion always to the person, the woman, and with a positive approach, so that we see post-menopause not as being like the end of a road, the end of the woman's life. It's just a start. It's actually a gateway to her second spring. And we use the menopause stage of life to really reflect and look what is going on in your life right now, because each of you are wonderfully individual, and say, is there something out of balance? Is there something we can bring back into balance for you? So you see it as an opportunity in your life and your lifestyle, so that as you go into that second spring, your life is healthier and you feel happier. So I hope that wasn't too long an explanation, Katie.
Not at all. And I love that concept of second spring, as a way to kind of reframe, well, not just, peri and meno, but postmenopause as well. Because I think a lot of there's so much in the press at the moment, and I personally hear from thousands of women with all the negative stories, and that's understandable. They're coming to us because they're just not getting help and support, and we're obviously signposting them on to wonderful people like you. But I think it's so good to have something that kind of breaks that sort of cycle of negative imagery, and not, it's all out of our hands. And I think Petra and I, for those that haven't seen, we did a lovely interview together at last year's the Midlife Festival, and also you very kindly ran a session in our private membership. And that session was about preparing you for sort of deep sleep or relaxation. And I think that's what's so fabulous about menopause yoga, is if you either wake up in the morning and you're just thinking, I don't want to go for a run, or I've got no energy, actually I'm feeling anxious or stressed today, you can kind of go to your book and we'll talk more about what else you offer, and think, right, well, today actually just what I need is this. And the same in the evening, that, if you're not sleeping well, actually I need to relax myself before bed. And that's what I love about menopause yoga. I mean, I've just touched on rest and relaxation, but does it help with, and how does it help with other things other than, because I know a lot of us think, okay, it helps de-stress. What about things like sexual health? And you also mention things like bones. So, what about sort of bone density and strengthening?
So there are obviously different practices, different classes that I teach live online and in person. And these techniques are designed to be a practice that you can either share joining me or one of the other many teachers that I've trained all over the world, in fact, or you can practice them yourself. So this is the other component of menopause yoga, is that we have got a little toolkit of techniques which have been designed so that you can learn them fairly easily with a little bit of practice, so that when you feel like you're having a hot flush or anxious or menopause rage, or you want to lift that low mood and boost your digestion, you can just do a 10, 15, 20-minute practice on your own. And I think that's what makes it such an empowering practice, because it's about helping women to pause, take a moment for themselves and say, what do I need today, right now? And what can I do to help myself feel that way? That's the empowering part of it. So it doesn't have to be a whole 90-minute class. You can do it even in your home. I just want to put out here as well is that some people have this image of yoga teachers as being perfect, spiritual, skinny, as you said, human beings. But I have taught hundreds and hundreds of women since I created Menopause Yoga in 2011. And I have now trained 500 yoga teachers, most of whom are going through a stage of menopause. And I can tell you, they are just women just like you, and they have anxiety and overwhelm and brain fog and hot flushes, etc., etc. So when you think about a yoga teacher, it's not about being intimidated by them. They're just human beings, and they're just sharing some techniques for you to learn. Katie, I've just got another thing I really want to share, which I haven't talked about before. And that is that there's been a recent study by Westminster University in London. And they were looking at menopause and yoga and which practices work, which ones don't, and what people say has worked for them. And in addition to the actual yoga poses and breathing and meditation, the other thing they said that they benefited from was being in the company of other people. And this is a really essential part of menopause yoga, is that when you're learning the menopause yoga techniques, we do it in a women's circle, in a room together, and simply sharing our stories and experiences, like you do with the Latte Lounge. It helps women to voice how they're feeling and know that they're not alone. That's so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head, that I think as soon as it also makes it more enjoyable, because sometimes the thought of doing exercise or yoga or whatever it is, you sometimes just don't have that motivation, especially during perimenopause and menopause. So knowing you're going to be with other women, that, supporting each other to come along and do it, and know, that you're all in this together is so beneficial. You're absolutely right. And you mentioned, you were saying that, yoga teachers are not these perfect human beings, and you're so right, because I always imagine that going to a yoga class, you're just going to see a teacher standing on one leg with her, looking very swan-like, and it's scary if you're anyone like me who's completely clumsy and not at all balanced. It can be a barrier. And I think, your yoga menopause, I've had a look, and I've had a try of quite a few. I love it because there's everything from the complete beginner. And as you say, it's this toolkit, so you can actually practice it in your bedroom with no one watching or looking until you feel confident.
Absolutely. And those little short practices, I've actually created a suite of little short, sort of 10, 15-minute, 20-minute practices, because I'm busy myself. And if I wasn't teaching yoga, Katie, I probably wouldn't have time to practice yoga myself. So you just say to yourself, well, waking up in the morning, check in with yourself, maybe over a cup of tea while you're even still lying in bed, and saying, how do I feel today? Like, how do I feel in my body? How do my muscles or bones feel? What is my energy feeling like? Have I got any anxious thoughts? How did I sleep last night? And then from that, you can decide, what is it I need and what do I need to do? And you can even do these little short practices lying down in your bed, so long as the bed isn't like a water bed, as long as it's quite firm in the mattress. And so that's what it's all about. It's fitting it into your life and your lifestyle. And even just doing some little spinal stretches, a little twist to the side, some little breathing techniques, abdominal breathing, and then maybe giving yourself a little, we call it a mantra or a positive affirmation, just to help start your day. It could be anything from, I am safe, I am well, I am cared for. Yeah, just to help you feel calm and less anxious. Or you could say, I'm just going to take today one breath at a time, and then you deep breathe. Or you might say, you might practice one of the hand gestures, which are called mudras, which help to focus the mind. Or you might want to write something down in a journal as an intention. And in yoga, we call this sankalpa. It's a Sanskrit word, but all it really means is, how do I want this day to proceed? How do I want it to go? And the great benefit of doing that is that if you set that intention in the morning when you're waking up with that cup of tea, then if things don't go so good during the day, because we're not in control of the world around us, maybe someone shouts at you, or you get beat by a car and you feel flustered, you can bring yourself back to that intention that you set and just do a simple breathing technique that I show people. So you can see it's about fitting it into your life.
Well, I was going to actually, that was my kind of next question is, we are all really busy, and a lot of women, work full-time or part-time, and are on the go a lot, and we're juggling a lot, perhaps aging parents or kids or just family and friends, or whatever it is. So, what sort of poses can we all easily incorporate into our busy lives? And is there an ideal time of day to do it, an ideal length? And also, one other question, should we be building this in as a regular routine and habit, so that we don't kind of get out of the habit?
So habits are easy to learn and easy to break. So it's all about getting back on board when something else gets in the way, and not being what's the word, catastrophizing, not saying, oh, I've stopped doing that practice, therefore I've failed. It's all about positive reinforcement. So when you're starting a habit, it's really important to do it as often as you can. So try to make it every day and make yourself accountable by having a little notebook and writing down either at the beginning of the day or end of the day what you did, yeah, and how you felt. Because that's also part of it. It's a very conscious practice. So it's about saying, well, this morning I did some stretches in my bed, I did this breathing technique and this little affirmation, and it took me 15 minutes. How did I feel afterwards? If you write down, so you've got a little record in your notebook of how you felt, that's going to help your brain to reinforce the positivity of the practice. Yeah. So it's about building that up step by step. Now, I would recommend that people do this every morning and every evening, but it's really just going to be dependent on your busy day. So let's say you've got children, you've got to rush them to get to school in the morning. Maybe all you've got time in the morning for is a 5-minute stretch in bed, 2 minutes of breathing, and set a positive intention. So that all in all takes you maximum 10 minutes in bed if you can still manage that. But maybe once they've gone to school and you've been rushing around, maybe you haven't had a good night's sleep. So actually in the afternoon before they come home from school, you could be doing a couple of the yoga poses, the restorative poses that I shared with members in your latte lounge room, where you literally just putting your legs up onto a chair or a sofa and lying down on the ground with a blanket underneath you. And that is incredibly restorative for your energy and resets your nervous system as well. But also, if you don't have time for that, maybe you work in an office, Katie, and you can't lie down and put your feet up. But you could do this before you go to bed. So when we do these gentle, short stretches, even lying in the bed or lying next to your bed, it tells your body and your brain, I'm preparing for a good night's sleep. And your body gets to reward you for how you're feeling. So you do a breathing technique and a stretch, your nervous system feels calm and relaxed. Your brain will remember how you felt so that next time you go into that pose or that stretch, it will reward you by helping you to go to sleep more quickly. So can you see how it's incremental, but it's also easy?
It is. And I think, I mean, a lot of people might think, well, is this a bit woo-woo or left of field for me when I'm trying to treat menopause symptoms? And all I can say is, the NHS recommend it. I have found it, and nothing worked for me originally other than HRT. But even when my my hormone levels were balanced with HRT and I started to feel better, I actually found that with yoga, I felt it was like an added extra I really, really needed, because I'm sitting at a desk a lot in the day, working, and it's a very good way of sort of getting up, removing yourself, going into a sort of zone, stretching, relaxing. And I found it really helped with digestion as well. Not to go on about me, but I had my gallbladder removed, and I have a real problem with digestion, often with certain foods. And I think a lot of women during menopause suffer with digestion, and it does seem to help. Is there a particular reason why yoga can sort of alleviate that sort of sluggish, lethargy that you sometimes feel?
Absolutely. So as you know, menopause yoga combines Western medical science and psychology with Eastern well-being practices, including nutrition, herbal remedies. So we actually invite HRT to come into the picture alongside the herbal remedies and movement, etc. And the reason why yoga is so beneficial for your digestive system, 2 different reasons. Remember, with yoga, you set an intention of what you're trying to achieve, and then it's a therapeutic practice. So if you're feeling sluggish in your digestion and unable to, metabolize and get the nourishment from your food and also have elimination, then you need to do 2 things. First of all, if you're feeling constipated and bloated, there's obviously a lot of tension in the body, which is creating that tenseness and tightness. But if you were to do that simple pose we've practiced before, Katie, of lying on your back, raising your legs up onto a chair and resting your hands on your abdomen, what happens is it relaxes specific muscles in the body, which then help you to breathe more deeply. And then once your body is in a state of gentle rest, not asleep, but gentle rest, then your digestive system can start to function. And so what you might notice is peristalsis, which is the movement of food through the intestine as it's getting digested. And so people will literally lie down, put their feet up on a sofa or chair and go, oh, I'm getting gurgly noises. And that is your digestion working. But there are also other things you can do. You can do some gentle twists. So stimulating the peristalsis, the movement of food through the body, through these gentle twists from left to right, releasing tension in your lower back. And in addition to that, Katie, we have a little practice that I call relight my fire. So if you think about your digestive fire, it does get dampened. It's like someone's poured some water on the flames, and it's a lot harder to digest your food. Your metabolism is really slowed down. So how can you relight that fire? So we have some breathing techniques that are almost like sort of pumping energy into the abdominal area, and that can really get your digestive juices going.
And I mean, while we're on that sort of relight the fire, I did ask you at the beginning, and I think we got so carried away, I don't think we answered it, but sexual health, why is yoga good for that?
So we can very specifically use pelvic floor exercises with our breathing techniques in order to both strengthen and tone around the pelvic floor area. So that's going to have various benefits. Number one, in terms of sexual pleasure, it's going to enable you to feel the sensation of penetrative sex or orgasm because you're toning those muscles that become weaker, more slack as the estrogen declines around the vaginal wall area. In addition, it's going to have the benefits of helping you with your bladder control. So we can also practice some bladder control exercises with that so that you're not waking up all night trying to go to the bathroom all the time, because you have actually been able to empty your bladder completely. But also, when we feel good in our bodies, we feel more sexually attractive and more sexually desirous. And that's not just about building the muscle tone and strength. I mean, I love to feel my muscles. I love to feel toned. It's not just about that, though. It's about an attitude, cultivating an attitude of befriending your emotions and your body so that we accept ourselves and remove the unnecessary veil of trying to be somehow perfect, like a magazine model. Because actually, sexuality is nothing about looking like a stick thin model. It's about how you feel in yourself. Yeah. So yoga can really help with that, helping to change your mindset and encouraging you to embrace yourself and love yourself.
And I think, look, a lot of women, we've discussed this on a previous series about pelvic floor health. It's, a lot of women do suffer with things like UTIs as well as sort of other issues with their, digestive system and bladder and bowel. So there just seems to be so many benefits. Now, look, before I let you go, I want to ask you just a couple more things. One I did touch on. We get a lot of women who say, you focus a lot on perimenopause and menopause, but I'm postmenopause. And there's a lot we need to sort of talk about in postmenopause. And one of those is, and I mentioned about building bone density, but a lot of women can suffer with things like osteopenia, osteoporosis. And so could you just sort of talk a little bit about why and how it's helpful, and obviously why we do need to protect our bones?
Absolutely. So I am 8 years. I'm 8 years into my post-menopause, Katie. So definitely in my second spring, maybe into my second summer. And I have noticed shifts and changes in my own body, whether it's the sarcopenia of weakened muscles, or maybe, some more additional soreness in some of the joints, a little bit more weight gain sometimes, depending on when I eat and what I eat. So we all need to be aware of how our body's changing. But in your postmenopause, you can feel fitter, stronger, healthier. I absolutely promise you. And we do this in the yoga practice through specific yoga poses where we hold the yoga poses for 60 seconds. And scientifically proven that if you want to build bone strength, building bone density at the joints, you need to stack the joints on top of each other in a line and then stay in the pose 60 seconds. And if it feels too much for 60 seconds, you can build up. So today, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And before you know it, you've got up to 60 seconds. So we've got building bone density poses. And you don't have to go to a HIIT class or run a marathon. These are poses that we're just going to hold, and we're going to hold them for a bit longer. In the process of doing that, we're also building that muscle mass tone that supports the whole of your skeletal structure, keeping it upright. And with good posture, that's going to help avoid that osteoporosis, rounding of the back that we often see in older people, which is a kind of a kyphosis, they call it, in the upper back. In addition to that, we are also practicing balance poses, things that we call like tree pose. And that's not only building bone and muscle strength, it's helping you to retain your balance, because one of the lesser known symptoms of the menopause is vertigo and losing your sense of balance and a kind of a losing your spatial awareness. So when you say you're clumsy, Katie, I don't believe that. It's just, it's just feeling maybe a little bit off center sometimes. And that's just the change in the hormones affecting your sense of balance in your ears. So having a regular practice like a tree pose, you don't have to do it without props. I encourage people to rest the fingers onto a wall or a chair, because it doesn't matter so long as you're stacking the bones and developing that balance. So those are some really easy ways. But one other really essential ingredient, going back to stress. So stress depletes your bone density. And some people don't even realize that. I know people who've had very stressful jobs, been hugely healthy, done so much exercise, eaten the right foods, but they've got osteopenia or even osteoporosis because of the high levels of stress. And also high levels of stress will turn your muscle into fat as well. High cortisol levels, high adrenaline levels, that's going to add on weight. It's also going to make it harder to sleep. So all of these factors, even simple yoga that reduces stress, is going to help. Does that help explain?
Yes, and as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, really yoga should be introduced into primary and secondary school, and also into all workplaces, because actually, if we grow up with it, and it's a good way to de-stress, then we don't need to keep reaching for a pill or rushing to the doctor all the time. But actually, we've got some control over our own sort of, immediate health, but also our long-term health and well-being.
That's a really good point that you make. So when I was at secondary school, so I was a teenager, getting a little bit more self-conscious about my body, and trying to skive out of netball practice and having to go into the changing rooms. And so we got offered at my school free yoga lessons with this lovely Indian teacher who came in and taught us. And I loved it. Then, of course, life happened for about a decade or so, and children. And then I revisited the yoga practice. So I think if you are introducing it into schools, it does help, because there's a familiarity and you go, oh yeah, that's not scary, I could do that. It's interesting though what you say, Katie, because I actually now teach yoga to corporate clients, and I run webinars and yoga sessions for people in the workplace to practice. And I've even produced some videos for the menopause charity showing how to practice yoga at your desk, at work. And then just last week, I was teaching staff in the NHS for a menopause conference up in Derbyshire. So I was online, they were online, and we were all in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, practicing 40 minutes of yoga together. It was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. So I really hope that in future that the NHS will invite me in and I'll record free interviews, free classes, just so that everybody can access this without having to spend a lot of money.
Well, I think, especially with the cost of living at the moment, I think crisis and everything else is going on. I think that's very generous, and I think it would help a lot of people. Look, I mean, obviously, I could talk to you for hours and hours, but we don't have much time left. So I just wanted to, first of all, remind people who are listening that I mentioned that Petra and I did a lovely masterclass in our private membership at getting you ready for sort of rest and deep sleep. If anyone would like to rewatch that, you can then have a go at some of these practices, please do. And also our last year's midlife festival, which is the midlifefestival.com. And Petra, where can everyone find out more about you, your website, your book, and all your social channels, if they would like to sort of do some of your routines daily?
Well, thank you very much, Katie. So my website is menopause-yoga.com, menopause-yoga.com. My name is Petra Coveney. So look out for me, because otherwise you might find many of the yoga teachers who I've trained, which is wonderful. On my website, there is actually also a directory of teachers. So if you want to find someone local to where you live, there's a directory of over 500 teachers. If you want to practice with me, I am still offering my morning classes for only £8. And these are at different times of the morning to fit in with busy people. They're just for an hour. So that's me. I'm on Instagram at menopause_yoga. And if at any time, Katie, you'd like to invite me back to share an energizing bone density building practice, I'd love to do that. And what we could do is just make them really short practices to make it something everyone can fit into their lives. Does that feel good?
Yeah, and I think I'll take you up on that. I think that will be really, really helpful. For those of you who are listening, but would like to see what the gorgeous Petra looks like, we will be saving this, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. And we'll also share some little snippets on our social channels for you all to share. But thank you all so much for listening. And Petra, again, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm sure everyone found that really helpful.
Oh, Katie, it's my absolute pleasure. I love to share this, and I love what you've been doing in the Latte Lounge all these years. It's just absolutely astounding. It's a real place to come for knowledge and information. So thank you for everything you do. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Latte Lounge Plus, the online menopause clinic. With thanks to our podcast producer, Emily Crosby Media.